Hey everybody, and welcome back to ZOMBcast. I'm one of your hosts, Nick, here with me today.
Kevin, that's me.
It's Kevin. Hi everybody, welcome back.
Arrows? Can we make arrows go into it, or am I just gonna? I'll just use my fingers.
Yeah, me. It's me.
They're just.
Unless they're audio listeners, then arrows really don't do that good.
Imagine arrows, people.
Imagine if we had arrows.
We have
pointing
arrows
at our faces. Yes, you're back at ZOMBcast. You're back at the weird people.
I feel bad for them after that. That was horrible.
Anyways, so now we're doing the official, start of, episode 0. You kind of got to know us. Episode 1, we talked about more like what was the first zombie movie. And so now we're going to be talking about that first traditional zombie movie. And that is Night of the Living Dead. So we're going to kind of go real in-depth about that, talk about our thoughts of everything, and finish it off with a nice kind of open discussion topic that we can go with. So please enjoy. Let's get started with Night of the Living Dead. All right, so Night of the Living Dead is a 1968 American independent horror film written, directed, photographed, and edited by George A. Romero. So he is officially the godfather of zombies. Co-written by John Russo. I'm wondering if are these the Russo brothers' daddy?
Don't forget about Hardman.
And starring Dwayne Jones and Judith O'Dea. The story follows 7 people who are trapped in a rural area or farmhouse in western Pennsylvania, which is under assault by enlarging group of cannibalistic undead corpses.
That's right. The film was completed on a literal budget of $114,000 and shot outside Pittsburgh, where it had its theatrical premiere on October 1st, 1968. The film grossed just around $12 million and domestically, and US $18 million internationally. So, I mean, it had both international and domestic growth, which is good for its time.
I'm wondering, is that according to like today's, like, is that adjusted for inflation, or did they make 12? Because I mean, think about it, 114,000 all the way up to $12 million.
Yeah, to
like,
12
is that gross? Is that lifetime?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
you got to think about the cult classic, the cult following, and I'm sure this is updated.
I don't. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering. Like, it doesn't say. If you don't know, we're reading the wiki, guys.
Right. Earning more than 250 times its budget, Night of the Living Dead has been regarded as a cult classic by film scholars and critics. There we go. Despite being heavily criticized upon its release for its explicit gore, which I actually kind of agree with. It was pretty gruesome for the color, for being a black and white movie. It was pretty gross. I will give it that. It eventually garnered critical acclaim and was selected in 1999 by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Film Registry as a film deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Mm-hmm.
Which is impressive. So even Congress was like, "Yo, this movie kicks butt."
Right. Well, I don't know if they thought it kicked butt, but they at least thought it was culturally relevant, so that's kind of cool. Night of the Living Dead led to 5 subsequent films between 1978 and 2009, also directed by Romero and inspired by several inspired several remakes. The most well-known remake was released in 1990, directed by Tom Savini.
And I actually understand that, and I actually I like the remake by Tom Savini. Savini. That's one I'm really excited to watch again because it's going to be this, but modern.
Yeah.
So fun, a lot of fun there. We did a little watch together party because what's going on. So you and I watched it together via internet, which was a lot of fun. And I found that we made I found that we made some really good jokes throughout the film. I'm pretty sure that you choked on a beverage and popcorn at some point.
Right?
There was something I said.
You said something about like fucking Karen.
Okay, because no, it was like, is this really the fucking time, Karen?
Right?
And I didn't even know. Well, I knew, I guess, because I've seen it so many times, but I didn't think about the fact that the character's name was fucking Karen.
Well, her daughter's named
Oh,
Karen.
their daughter's name was
She
Karen,
is
too.
named
Whatever her
Helen.
name
Helen.
is.
Yeah.
This is the time fucking
Either
Helen.
way, this is a fucking time, Karen. It was
It
so
was not the
freaking hilarious.
time for what she was going through with her bullshit.
We definitely have some research to do for you guys. But
Yes.
if we do have a chance to kind of do a live stream where we're watching it along and you can watch it along with us or whatever, we will try to do that. Otherwise, we'll always try to watch each of the movies together just so that we can. And we actually did it the night before recording, so it's really fresh in our brain.
Super fresh.
I do like the little tidbit of in 1999, the Library of Congress put it into the National Registry, and that is because the lead in the movie is actually a black man, and I thought that was really interesting.
Incredible.
I mean, 1968. I mean, we're still right on the heels of the equality,
Civil Revolution.
Exactly. So I really like that, and to think that like George A. Romero, like there's a couple of different documentaries about this film in general, and the fact that like George A. Romero, like he didn't pick a black guy because he's like, oh, I want a black guy, I want to make a statement. Instead, he's just like, hey, this is the right guy for this part. I'm gonna give it to him. And that's kind of really cool if you think about it.
I mean, let's go into Dwayne Jones' history a little bit. Dwayne Jones as Ben, he was an unknown stage actor. Jones' performance depicted Ben as a comparatively calm and resourceful African American. According to a movie reviewer in 1969, Jones was a distinguished gentleman and former university professor in real life. Jones' casting was potentially controversial in 1968 when it was rare for a black man to be cast as the hero of an American film, primarily composed of white actors. And this is true. There was predominantly white actors in this movie, but Romero said that Jones simply performed the best. Just like you said, Nick, right there. Bam. Performed the best. He went on to appear in other films that Jones simply performed the best in his edition. He went on to appear in other films after Night of the Living Dead, including Ganja and Hess, which, wait a minute, didn't know that, Beat Street, and continued working as a theater actor and director until his death in 1988. Despite his other film roles, Jones worried that people only recognize him as Ben. So I think you're, right on the head with the fact that, George A. Romero knew what he was doing when he cast that man. He said he's just perfect for the job, and I don't dispute that at all.
Yeah,
I can't dispute that at all because he is. He's a fantastic. He is a good actor. You and I did talk about something during the movie, was how much he was overreacting.
Yeah, right.
And then once we found out that it's because of the fact that he's a stage actor, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, because when you're like basically playing to the nosebleeds, like your movements need to be like whoa, and just like all over the place so that people from the back row can understand. Oh, he's angry.
I went wiki and totally stepped on your toes with that, but yeah, I mean, because I get excited about things like that.
No, totally.
Flat out the truth when it comes to like, man, if you're the right person for the job, you're the right person for the job, plain and simple. And I do feel that. Now with Judith O'Dea, whatever her name is, no, I don't really feel she was a right girl for that.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're coming, Barbara. Do you have any candy, Barbara?
I think the most annoying thing about Barbara is that they basically decided for her to just freak out for the whole movie. So, which to a certain extent, okay, like it makes sense. Her brother dies right in front of her and she's freaked out. But then like she just stays that way until the very end when she kind of gets a burst of energy, but then like it really doesn't do her any good. So it's not like there was this character arc or anything.
Yeah, I don't feel that at all. Like even when you and I were watching the scene where they were explaining their stories, I mean, who told the better story?
Oh yeah, Ben did. He's
Yeah.
talking about how he's at a gas station. Not only that, but we didn't just freaking see it. Like, she
Yeah.
goes through her story and she literally is like just recounting the first 15 minutes of the movie. And it's like, not only that, but she's doing it in such a melodramatic way that I'm like, okay, we just saw this. Why are we going through this? Meanwhile, later on, freaking Helen comes in and somehow knows that her brother died. And it's like, wait, they didn't
Yeah.
even have a discussion about that.
Which is why I really wanted you to cover Judith in this aspect, because I feel that you really kind of saw through more of the blinds than I did. To me, I was just seeing that fronted bad character, but you're like, yo, what about this? Or what about this? I'm like, yeah, I agree. Because like Helen comes out of nowhere, right? Sits down, starts smoking. Everybody in this freaking show smokes cigarettes.
Well, all the white people do.
Well, no, so does Ben.
Oh, does it? I don't remember that.
Yeah, actually, what I thought was funny was Ben had cigarettes, pulled one out, and was smoking one. And which guy is it? Tom? Is it Tom?
The older white guy?
Yeah, Tom.
Harry Cooper.
Yeah, he goes downstairs and
Harry Cooper.
Carl Hardman is Harry Cooper. That's it, Harry Cooper. Pulls out a pack of cigarettes, and it's empty. And he immediately goes over to his wife's bag, opens up her bag, and just rips a cigarette out. He's like, "That's mine." Throws it in his mouth. I don't know why. I just thought it was funny. It's like, I don't know. There were like some things in the movie that just kind of really showed how shitty of a person Harry was.
Right, yeah.
And because in my opinion, Harry was a shitty person all the way through the movie. Not that I didn't like his character. I thought that his character was very suiting for the environment and what they were going through. And I honestly feel that Carl Hardman did play a very good character. I thought that he did a good job, but it just showed they did a good job at showing how big of a piece of shit he was.
Yeah, he played a very like typical 1950s alpha male, but when it came down to it, like he was a scared little boy.
He was a scared little boy. Tom had more balls than him.
Oh, for sure. Right. But yeah, so I mean, it starts off Barbara and her brother. I think what was so interesting, especially since this is kind of the dawn of the like more traditional zombies, I think what like took us both off is that one, the zombie that came up and grabbed her and her brother wasn't necessarily like trying to bite them yet. He was just kind of like wrestling. They were wrestling,
grabbing at each other, and I don't think we accounted his death to be an actual zombie death.
Yeah, he hit his head on a gravestone. The brother did. Yeah,
broke his neck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat where it's like, did he break his neck? Did he do that? So I agree. It didn't really look like a bite. One of the other things that we saw that was kind of like off-putting was one of the zombies ate a bug.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a weird throw-in for zombie. I mean, but again, this is supposed to be mainstream OG zombie, right?
Right,
so,
yeah.
Eating a bug, I don't know.
Yeah, we've just never seen that because, like, they eat a squirrel, they ate a horse in, like, Walking Dead. And
they've eaten a dog in one of them.
Yeah, right? But not Dawn of the Dead. No.
Dawn of the Dead, that one gets to me because, like...
Don't get sidetracked.
All right, we're going to cover that in another episode. Okay, we're going to go back to another episode. So, man, so yeah, they ate the bug. Another cool fact: when two of the characters get burned and cooked, I noticed the zombies kind of like headed towards that cooked meat a little bit harder than they did anything else.
Yeah, it was weird because like the very first zombie we see, brother either bangs his head or breaks his neck, whatever.
It is.
And the zombie like then is more interested in her, but I'm wondering if it's just because she's moving and he's no longer moving. Not only that, but she's screaming, so of course she's like, "Huh? Oh, I'm gonna come get you instead." But then he starts. The big part that stuck out to us is like, wait, are we okay with zombies knowing how to open a door?
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. There were things that the zombies could do that were still mindful.
Yeah, right.
And it was less brain dead. Now, this guy that was grabbing for the door, how long has he been dead? You know,
Right.
because he was from the graveyard. Was he? He wasn't the graveyard caretaker, was he?
I think he is. Like, if you look into the lore, I bet either
Is
that or
that
he
who he
was a
was?
visitor.
Okay, so yeah, he may have been the caretaker. So he could have been a fresh death.
Right.
Because again, when we get to the house, we find the old woman upstairs, where in one aspect it's like, is she just been dead a while and did her face decay, or was she eaten?
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, you're right. I think that more so she was eaten. Her face was eaten.
Her face was eaten alive.
So there too. We didn't really. I didn't. I don't feel that we got a fair look at them eating live human. We saw
Yeah.
them eating cooked human, but I don't feel like we got enough of the live human eating aspect.
That's true. So yeah, that's definitely the part, because then right after that he picks up a rock and he tries to he ends up bursting open the window. So that's interesting. But it's also interesting if you think about it. It's also interesting to see that George A. Romero was thinking about smart zombies from the
Yeah,
very beginning,
yeah.
because
I
you
totally got
have
sidetracked with that, but yes, you're right.
you have Night of the Living Dead. Then you have Dawn of the Dead later. What do? They all congregate at a mall. Then you have Day of the Dead, and in Day of the Dead, it's pretty much about one zombie.
Yep.
Frick, what's his name?
Uh,
It's like, I can't, like Gus or
the
something.
smart one with the gun, right?
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
have the smart one, and then the kind of the follow up to that one is then Land of the Dead, and in Land of the Dead, they're like going on about their lives almost to trick humans. You know what I mean? And in that one, Big Earl, I think, is the black guy. I think they call him Big Earl in the movie, but he actually starts using guns and teaching zombies how to use guns. So it's interesting that here we are, 1968, and he's already thinking of zombies as kind of more of a, they can still retain some of their humanity. I thought that was pretty interesting.
You and I did talk about that. If it is a neurological virus, if it's a brain virus, there has got to be some type of like mental data bank of memories that they have to go through and relive.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they can walk, they can
they
eat,
can walk,
so there has to be certain parts of their synapses firing in a certain way.
Right. So yeah, no, I totally got sidetracked with how more so of how he was eating. But yes, you're right. I mean, grabbing at the door, picking up the rock, breaking the window. When he gets to the house, he rips out the power line.
Yeah.
Though that wasn't intentional, it was still kind of like a notable moment for them. How they congregate and how they kind of how zombies, like in this one, they didn't stay super close knit. They were more tactical. Like one would focus on one while the others went for the other. So it's like they had, in a sense, more of a herd mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've already got this one taken care of, get that one type thing. They didn't talk or communicate or point or grunt in that aspect, but it almost seemed natural movement, right?
Yeah. And I'm not sure if that was like intentional or if it was really just a vehicle for the narrative. It's like, was he still trying to make them smart, or was it really just like, okay, this person's dead, now let's go after this one?
Now, I would like to cover another topic on this that we're talking about, drive for the narrative. How did we get the zombies? And in this case, it's space radiation, which is technically zombies from space. I mean, we're looking at,
from space. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at space zombies.
Right.
And Nick and I, earlier on in the season, we were talking about how there's different types of like zombies that have procured over the years, whether it's 28 days later where it's an infectious zombie that was spread because of like biochemical warfare or whatever the case was in that. And then you have the voodoo trance zombies, and then you have hell's over. I don't think we actually covered hell being overloaded, like too many souls.
Oh yeah.
We never really talked about that. Kind of like
more biblical.
Yeah, the biblical version of zombies. We never really covered that, but we did talk about space zombies and how it can be a radiation thing. Matter of fact, zombies are Plan 9 from outer space,
Mm-hmm.
it was aliens using mind control devices on dead bodies, but
Right.
they were more vampiric in that aspect. So we saw this tie-in between space zombies, and then you pointed out another good factor when they were on the radio and talking about the mentality of the zombie, the
Yeah.
trance they were under.
Yeah, they specifically mentioned trance, and I was like, I think that was George A. Romero's way of like paying homage, or at least
Like a
acknowledging, yeah, tip of the hat, to zombie movies that came before, because up until this point they were all mind controlled in some way, shape, or form. They might have died from an infection, but then somebody took over their dead corpse and then
Yep.
started. So I thought that was a real nice kind of like homage or tip of the hat, or whatever. Like they clearly put that in there. It definitely seemed emphasized when they were talking. They seemed to be in a trance. Like it wasn't like something in the background. They clearly brought attention to that. So I'm wondering if that was his way of just like, hey, this is a zombie movie, but I'm making my own rules.
And he did. I can honestly say that I feel like he did make his own rules while inspired by a multitude of horror creatures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I had noticed last night was their fear of fire.
Yeah.
Modern zombies today will walk through a fire and still come at you like, I don't care.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like, it's a fire. Like, they come at you on fire.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing worse than a zombie on fire. Like, how
This
do you run up a zombie?
zombie's on fire.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's what it is. But we noticed the fear of fire, and what other monster in history has had a fear of fire? That would be Frankenstein, another reanimated corpse. So
Mm.
is that another tip of the hat for this monster? Like, hey, Frankenstein's reanimated, but here's my spin on reanimation.
Right. Right.
Zombie. Here's what you do with this: you combine the two.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then there was another one that we had that was very kind of like open homage in a way. Oh God, what was it?
Not too sure.
Yeah, I can't remember it now.
We'll probably
Sure.
remember it as we go.
Yeah,
Because I mean, it was
sure.
interesting to see them afraid of fire, because it's just like
Yeah.
the way we see zombies nowadays. But it's also interesting just to see how he's evolved like his own rule set. Because I think even in his follow up, which would have been like Dawn of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, I definitely don't think they were scared of fire. And although we'll see once we rewatch it, but yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that. You know, we do when we do eventually get to the barn house and we start getting the interactions between the characters. Ben coming into the scene, really taking charge. I think the coolest thing about Ben's character, Dwayne Jones playing him, I think the most interesting thing was it was kind of in your face.
Oh,
But
it
it
very
also,
much was. It very
it,
much was in your face.
yeah, but it also just wasn't like too overly, I did think it was interesting that in one of the very first movies that a black man was the lead
Hero.
character, he essentially punches out a white woman. And I'm like,
Oh,
wow.
he slapped the shit out of her.
Yeah, and just knocked her out too. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm good now. No, it's boom, you're out.
Yeah, he hit her so hard she took a nap. Like, she took a leap, and then she woke up. That's probably what she had, a concussion.
Yeah, right.
No, that is a very interesting fact. At the fact that he again, 1968, right? I mean, this is just not something that's happened. It's a lead black role. The only time it would happen would be in, I hate to say it, but like in black cultured movies, which they were out there. There was sports for them, all kinds of things. Like, I hate to say it like that because it's so disgusting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they had these things for them, and it wasn't fully integrated. We didn't. It wasn't a full on society like it should have been, right? So to see this, ballsy move by George A. Romero. And it was an unintentional move. It was just a good human being being a good human being.
Mm-hmm.
And to know where we're at today, to see where we're going, and to see where we've been, and to see this type of movement,
Mm-hmm.
was honestly just kind of like a haha.
Like, oh,
I like,
wow.
yeah, I liked it. No, I mean, outside of the political side of it all, it was a brash thing to do, and I felt that they needed to do it. They did it in a great time. Um,
Hmm.
Again, very strong character, like you said, very in your face. Um, so much in your face, like him and Carl Hardman, Harry Cooper. I mean, man, he not hit that one guy once; he hit him twice.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Uh,
gets. Yeah, they get pretty. They get pretty into it, which is
yeah,
also interesting. I think one of the most, I guess, frustrating parts of the movie is like they get there. She's basically just kind of going crazy, but
she goes crazy
probably the
the
most
whole freaking movie, man.
right. But like
So
the whole part where he's basically boarding up the entire house. It's like, okay, when did this turn into Home Improvement? Because it's just like,
yeah, that's true. We're gonna wrap this around here and hammer this. Oh, watching her, Judith O'Dea, try to help him hang a door was the most excruciating 5 minutes of my life.
right.
Like,
Um,
go away. I didn't like her.
yeah.
I kind of wish they would have cast somebody different.
Yeah, and it was just it was a really long drawn out section,
Mm,
because then also like right in the middle of it he's like, oh, I'm gonna light this chair on fire, and oh, I found a gun, and a lot of stuff happens, and then
yeah,
finally we get introduced to the rest of our group, and it's like,
yeah.
you've just been down there this whole time, and they even have this giant argument about, you were
About
just
how
down
long they were
there.
down there. Yeah, yeah, they did. They had a huge argument about how long they'd been down there, about like, why didn't you come up? Well, there was noises. We didn't know what was going on. What, you don't care about anybody else's life? No, I care about me and my family's life. When all in turn, their daughter had been bit. Spoiler alert. I don't know.
Right.
If yeah, I don't.
We're talking about the whole story.
I mean, is this? Are we past spoilers since 1968? I don't know. So, um, yeah, no, I agree with that. I didn't like the fact that we had to have a whole argument. Now, my shoes, and I'm going by my shoes. If I'm in a house where I'm in a basement and there's a lot of fucking noise going on upstairs, and
Hmm.
it sounds like two people arguing because they
Right.
weren't loud, or they weren't quiet, they were
Yeah,
loud.
I mean, especially she was like, "Oh my God, my brother! He said, come get it ready, Barbara," and then,
Yeah,
it's like that
it's
scene
like,
from Airplane. It was like, "Calm down, calm down."
yeah, bam, calm down, bam. Seriously, that is what I did not like either the direction that they gave her or the
Mhm.
way she portrayed that direction. And they're like, fuck it, we're just going to work with it because this is all we got.
Right,
We only
right,
have a
right,
budget of 114,000. We already spent 20,000 on this dumb bitch.
right. We already spent 20,000 on Home Improvement and just
Yeah.
watching a guy hammer a bunch of stuff.
How many nails did we buy? 20,000 worth. Let's go.
I mean, that's honestly probably one of my only negatives about this, because we could go through the whole thing and do like a Science Mystery 3000 where we just make
Sure.
fun of the entire thing, but it's like looking at it as like
Sure.
as if we were back in the 1960s. We have to kind of look at that because the overacting, the filler. I feel like
Yes. There's a lot
movies
of
had to be a certain length, and so they were really just filling, and nowadays they'd fill that with a lot more like character development and stuff like that, but instead they're just like, okay, let's have him hammer for 10 minutes. It was a little excruciating because we really
Yeah.
there were certain parts where he talked to her and we got a little bit of his backstory, but then there's a whole like section of time where he's not saying anything, so like he's setting
fighting,
up.
hammering, and all you're listening to is the same broadcast from the radio.
Yeah, exactly, and of course
And
it
you
repeats
pointed it
itself.
out. I didn't notice it at first because you start tuning it out after a little bit, but it was
Right.
the same dang broadcast.
Yeah, it was just repeating itself. And so then, like, when he's getting the chair ready, I'm like, what is he doing? Like, I didn't understand. And I'm like, oh, he's lighting it on fire to scare them. Okay. But it was still, like, there was this just long, drawn-out scene of him, like, getting the thing ready. And I think, like, nowadays, if we made a movie, like, we wouldn't have a 10, 15-minute long segment where someone's just hammering. Because it's like we could be doing so much more, whether that be, oh, we cut to these people and get to know their story, then back to him when he's done with the hammering,
Yeah.
But that would be my only negative, because if you look at the movie as a whole and kind of just like beat by beat, it's like it's funny to see kind of, I guess, the tropes that you associate with a normal zombie movie. Perfect example, Karen, which is the little girl, she's
Yeah.
bitten and they don't know that that's what causes zombies. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's interesting to see kind of the tropes that, like, there's always somebody who's bit. There's always somebody that's an asshole. There's always somebody that's freaking worthless. Barbara! There's always two people that have to
Barbara!
hate each other.
Damn it, Barbara!
um, and there's always like this moment where they try to do a plan and then it gets royally fucked up. So all
Yep.
these tropes are things that we would normally see in a zombie movie, and it's so kind of interesting to be like, okay, this is kind of the beginning of it. Because even
Yeah.
one thing I pointed out is even down to the Winchester. I'm like, hey, do you think that's why they have a Winchester in Shaun of the Dead? And you're like, oh yeah.
That's a good point, because it was a Winchester rifle. And that's the other thing, man. When it comes to like Shaun of the Dead, this is totally gonna have to be another episode for this, but I'm gonna
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna put it out there now. Shaun of the Dead is one of the best homages to like traditional zombie filmmaking. I feel like
Mhm.
they really kind of like they made it a joke, but it was a really good joke.
Right.
It was a great joke that I'm like, man, I fully support this idea. And again, tip of the hat homage to whatever you want to call it, whatever. The very end where he's playing video games with his best friend,
Mhm.
like they can learn, they can
Yeah.
grow,
Mhm.
they still hold on to those memories or whatever. So it's like, why push that away? Right. Why
Mhm.
push that away? You had made a point about like how we're doing these, the Winchester. Another thing, Dawn of the Dead, the scene where they're in the the mall and they're watching the news channel and they're talking to that cop in the brown outfit with the cowboy. He's like, you just gotta shoot him in the head, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Totally an homage to when Night of the Living Dead, when they're talking to the cops and they're all walking around and they're like burning the bodies and stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
Great homage to that.
Yeah.
Honestly, another good tie-in. So clearly, a lot of zombie filmmakers throughout time have tipped their hat to George A. Romero,
Mhm.
and that's for good reason. But I also feel that he has done the same thing. He tipped his hat to the creatures that birthed his zombie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, luckily we didn't get any vampire bull crap. Somebody.
no, they were. You could see them in mirrors, and they cut through glass, and yeah, I didn't. I mean, other than the fact that they looked ghouly, right?
Yeah, right. Ooh,
But I
another
mean, what
homage that
more
I
could
really
you do back
liked, or another, I guess, maybe not homage, but another origin is there's one part where they're walking past windows and then all these hands come through, and I pointed it out. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure that's what Resident Evil was trying to pay homage to, was that moment right there. Because I
then?
want to say like every Resident Evil has a moment where like hands come through and try to get you, and
Yeah,
I'm wondering if they're all basically paying homage to that one moment in Night of the Living
and
Dead.
yep. So you remember when I talked about the ghoul eating the insect?
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn Eastman as Helen Cooper. Eastman also played a female ghoul eating an insect.
That's
So
funny.
that was actually that's kind of neat, because as Helen Cooper, she had black hair, and this, I think, the ghoul that ate the insect had blonde hair.
True. Very true.
So way to be George A. Romero for double casting while the character was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Helen Cooper at that point was still alive.
In the yeah.
And then there was another one I saw that I thought was kind of neat. Charles Craig as TV newscaster and a ghoul. So we're seeing a few characters cross over and they're playing zombies as well as actors. So again, you can really tell where the budget was,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
You can
It's like
really see. I mean, they have unknown stage actors, which is Dwayne Jones. You have Judith O'Dea, who is a commercial and stage actress. So they literally, you can tell they did not have the money to do this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But without having money, look at the passion they put into it,
Right.
and look at the result that they got.
Right. Definitely.
Like, that's impressive. 12 to 18 million dollars internationally from 120 friggin' $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cars today cost $120,000.
Right, definitely.
So, I mean, wow. I mean, okay, tip of the hat to George A. Romero for putting something together that really birthed a culture.
Yeah,
Really, it did. It
yeah.
did.
So I mean, like, we get to a good portion, which is they're basically trying to figure out, um, how do we get out of here? And I thought, once again, tropey, where everything goes wrong. But
Yep.
one thing I thought was really interesting is, there's an altercation between Harry and Ben.
Oh gosh.
Ben ends up kicking the crap out of him, but then Harry tries to get the better of him to shoot him, but then Ben shoots him. And I'm like,
Yep.
that's heartless. Even though he was defending himself, I'm like, damn. And so then we get to see him go down to his daughter. It's like, and then he dies. Next thing we know, she's eaten half of his arm and stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, so
Yep.
we do get a real good shot of like that. But not only that, when Ben gets overrun, he has to go downstairs and deal with those zombies.
Yeah. That's the other part. And again, like I said, we didn't get a lot of the human eating human aspect right off the bat. Like we didn't really get a lot of it, and the little bit that we did, it was somewhat satisfying. Like, okay, as far as like eating flesh to flesh, uncooked, blah blah blah, the first one would be when she's eating his arm, right?
Well, I guess right before that, they are eating the remains, but then we don't see that much, although they do pull out intestines.
True, but again, that's from the cooked bodies.
True, very true. So yeah, you're right. The whole arm, we actually get to see it, which I do think it was weird that she used shears to kill her mom. That was weird, and just
again, why is she already I guess adaptation, but yeah, that's again, it goes back to the whole opening the door thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why is she using why are we using tools right away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting because and I mean, maybe it's because she knew that her mom was bigger than her, so she had to have a one-up. So that's showing a lot of thinking,
A lot of brain power for a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
For trance-like creatures. And the way they describe the creatures in the show, you wouldn't expect them to have intelligent thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way they're in a trance, they're ghoulish, they're motionless, they're emotionless, they just wander around aimlessly and attack and eat their victims. Like they don't really give them a plot. They don't really give them a goal or what's the word I'm looking for? They don't really give them an endpoint where it's just like they just kind of aimlessly wander and eat things as they see fit.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the zombies that we personally interact with in the show, they pick up tools. They eat cooked meat. Like they eat cooked meat, and it's not like a little bit. Like I guess in most zombie shows, like if a person dies, they don't go for the food.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They kind of just stop. Whereas like the big explosion happens, those people weren't screaming. They weren't doing anything. They were just sitting there sizzling. And the zombies are like, oh, that was free McDonald's.
Yeah. Not only that, but then it's almost a contradiction because it's like the car was on fire. Why are they even going close to it?
Thank you. Yeah, it is contradiction. That's actually a super valid point that I didn't think about that. You're right. The car was on fire. Their bodies were on fire. So again, a little lost on the aspect of tool usage as well as eating cooked meat. But again, this is the birth. This is what gave way. So do we overlook those small things as being like the first mainstream zombie movie, or do we say no, that's just whack?
For sure.
Now I think I would definitely say this is definitely a zombie movie.
No, yeah, right. So then let's talk about the ending. Grim ending. I just happened to be like, because it was like almost like 1 o'clock at night when we were getting ready to get it done. And I just happened to look and I'm like, oh, we have 5 minutes. It's like, this has to wrap up really fast if we have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
And then so the cops come through and basically just like gun down everything, and
Yep.
then our boy Ben actually gets gunned down. I mean,
Yeah, total Red Dead Redemption. He got the treatment. He got the Red Dead treatment right at the end. Guns blazing, full glory, shot down. Bull crap.
well, no,
It's my most hated part about the whole movie.
well, I mean, yeah, it was weird because like basically he was on the inside looking out. He was holding his gun up, so like, but it's weird because the person who shot him, one shot to the head, but it's like, I mean, I guess that's what's weird about this is that zombies can hold things up. So did they think that a zombie was holding up a gun? Like, it just kind of sucks that he's like this unintentional
Yeah.
collateral, and that's also like the person we've been rooting for this whole time, and just boom, dead, done, and it's like, oh crap,
Yep.
well, what now?
Yep. He was our main hero protagonist, and it's like, how can you count him as a hero protagonist if they didn't escape?
Yeah, and it's also just really weird. Like, I don't know if they ran out of time when they were writing or ran out of time when they were filming, because then right after he shoots him, it then goes to still frames as they're wrapping up the movie, basically.
Yeah.
So they put meat hooks on him, drag him out and stuff like that. But we see all this in freeze frames, and it's just like, it was really weird just how abrupt it ended. And I'd say if I had another negative, so the one negative was the, home improvement right in the middle of the freaking movie, and then just how abrupt it is. It's just boom, okay, we're done, bye. And it was just like, okay, so what's next? Is there more zombies? Are they all dead? Like, because at least if we're going by this, it looks like they get the situation under control. So how
Yeah.
are there more movies? Which granted, there's always room for sequels, but
There's
still,
always
it's
room
just
for sequels.
it's just so weird how abrupt it is and how like they just go through and just mow them all down. It's nothing to them.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It is basically yeah, it is weird. I mean, I felt that not that it's, again, zombies using tools. That's why they shot the guy. I actually see that being the reason. Like,
Yeah,
that's why
I
they
guess.
shot Ben. And like I said, when I say guns up, full glory blazing, it's like it only took one shot, obviously, and that's another thing that I have to say in this movie. How did they kill the zombies?
Yeah.
Gotta hit him in the head. Gotta hit him in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta kill the brain. The brain is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the brain the key? In this one we have radiation zombies. Why is their brain still fully functioning?
Yeah. It's weird. All we can really gather from it is that the radiation somehow radiates the body, and it basically kicks the brain back on.
Yeah,
but
it's like the power booster.
Yeah, but then they can't think. So then all they do is they eat. They hunt and they eat. So the radiation is probably the weirdest part, just because, like, I guess I just never really thought that that's how it started. You always think that it's like something like viral or something. So to have the radiation aspect of it is really kind of interesting, I think. But overall, it's really hard. It's really hard to go back and visit this because it's a classic. Let me get that very clear.
It's a cult classic.
Let me get that clear. But oh my
also,
god,
my son Alex, I asked him what he thought of it. He loved it.
Yeah, right. Good.
He actually said it was a good. He goes, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it is timeless then. We'll give it that. But yeah, there's so many aspects of it that I thought were just really like, okay, yeah, this is definitely an old movie. You know what I mean? So I really liked it. Overall, I think it definitely deserves its spot in history for sure.
Yes,
especially as
I think it deserves a spot in zombie history, 100%.
And this being one of the very first movies we get to talk about, super excited for that. So we obviously want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think about Night of the Living Dead. When was the first time you saw it?
Yeah.
And then what are your thoughts on it versus when you first saw it to now? Like, how does it changed over time for you? Let us know about that. All right, so then we're going to move on to our zombie topic of the week.
Yes.
This is where we're just going to basically kind of talk about random random stuff.
Which, if you haven't caught from the episode, we're pretty random. That was a scattered episode. I think it's just because we're so passionate about so many aspects of the movie that it was easy to get sidetracked talking about those things.
Yeah. And I mean, these are obviously something you can send to us. We have a few, obviously, planned out already. But anytime you guys want to call in, or not call in, you guys want to message us, you can go to @TX3 Productions, ThreatX3 Productions, and on YouTube, or ThreatX3 Productions @gmail.com. And as always, Discord is in the description down below, so look out for that. You can contact us anyway. So today's zombie topic of the week is, do zombies get tired?
Correct. Do they get exhausted?
Yeah.
Oh God, if I'm gonna lead this one off, let's see here. Like, do they ever take a nap? I don't know. I mean, if it's like a light switched on and it can't be turned off unless you kill the brain, I want to say no. Zombies don't get tired.
Zombies don't get tired? Okay.
Zombies don't get tired.
I don't know. If we go through kind of the history of zombies, I feel like we have plenty of, I guess, evidence that they might not get tired and go to sleep, but I do feel like they definitely get tired. So, like, how many...
They slow down. They do slow down. Yeah, I can see that.
How many zombies, though, or how many people end up getting bit by a zombie because it's, like, taking a nap on the floor? It might not be physically, like, closing its eyes, but it's definitely on the floor and just kind of hanging out like, I don't have anything to do. I'm just going to stay here.
You're absolutely right. A very lethargic zombie just chilling out. Or we've seen this before. What about the zombie that ate Rick Grimes' wife? Mm-hmm. Full belly, sitting there, hair hanging out the mouth.
Yeah.
Like stuffed to the gills.
Yeah.
Very lethargic. Probably pooped out from eating too much.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I didn't think about that. No, so yeah, I actually can I change my answer?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that they get tired.
Okay. No, they get tired. I think they do, and I think it's.
I don't think they stop. I don't think they ever stop and sleep.
Yeah.
Or like rest. Well, no, because they do. They do. Like you said, they kind of lay there.
I think it's more about not having stimulus. If they're in an area where nothing's going on, like, so they're in a warehouse, for instance. Yep. They're in a warehouse, nothing's going on, they haven't heard a noise for a while, or if they did hear a noise, it's just another zombie going, they just
probably like power down.
Yeah. Or they get to the point where, like, let's say they're in a warehouse, they hear noises because there's zombies walking around all the time. Does it eventually get tired of investigating a sound because they've gone to it so many times and it's been nothing?
Do they remember locations and sounds?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
That goes into the whole aspect of, like, do they have memories? Do they?
Or is it an instinct? Because it's Because one thing I've always kind of found interesting is, there's this debate is like, oh, if the zombie can run, is it really a zombie? And I'm like, really think about it.
Early day zombies, yes, can totally run.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying. Early day zombies, they still have all their muscle function. But then if they are just walking around for hours on end, or they're running around for hours on end, eventually their muscles are going to literally tear.
Well, and especially when their bodies are decaying and they have no more fluids in there to lubricate their muscles, and you start to see more of a skeletal thing. I actually think that zombies can decay to extinction or starve to extinction. I have that belief.
If only people could just stay inside and wear a mask!
Just stay inside. Oh, God. Honestly, though, true. I do believe that a zombie can starve to death. I do believe that they can decay to death. I don't know if
they can starve, because they're dead, right? So they can't starve to death.
Well, I mean, if a zombie doesn't eat for 2 years and it's just rotting and decaying and it doesn't have fresh blood to lubricate its muscles, then yeah, I'd say it starves.
So when a zombie eats, it's using that blood to lubricate itself?
That's the one way I can see past why a zombie doesn't decay faster, is that they're using the blood and body membranements to help hydrate themselves in a way.
So what about a zombie that ends up getting grown into a tree?
Yeah, I don't get that. So like for me,
it's cool visual, but
cool visual, really cool visual. But at the same time, it's like I feel that he would decay even faster because bugs, and he's now motionless. He can't like flail and flick bugs off of him. And that's the other thing. Bugs would just destroy rotting flesh.
True.
Maggots, things like that. So if he's in a tree, you got to think about all the bugs that are going to eat his skin, eat his flesh. Or does the zombie infection also cause a toxin in their flesh that makes them not pleasurable to other animals?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So,
well, I mean, if you think about it,
is that why we don't see dogs eating him?
Yeah, like rotting flesh in general, like animals don't usually like rotting flesh. Most
depends
animals,
on the animal. Some animals will. Some animals
true, like vultures.
Yeah. Some animals will eat the rotting flesh, but not all. Not all animals.
Yeah. So I mean,
but
like
bugs do.
That's a good point. Yeah. So it's interesting to see like a zombie many years down the road, and it's like it hasn't decayed, or it's still able to function. So that's an interesting one. So yeah, do zombies get tired? What do you guys think? Let us know, and we might read a couple of them on our next episode. All right, so that's going to be the episode of ZOMBcast. I was Nick.
And I am Kevin, your man.
Make sure to follow us everywhere on Twitter, YouTube, threatx3productions @gmail.com. Write into us. Let us know what you think we should be paying attention to, what we should do next, all that good stuff. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to check your corners.
And always give them the double tap. And most importantly,
don't get bit.